welcome back. I hope you are doing well. Today I will be working on another painting for another art show. I am so grateful for this opportunity, and the theme for this art show is ethnicity and culture. I wanted to do something that is really meaningful to me, which is my grandfather doing calligraphy because he was very passionate about it. These are my two main drafts that I used. I will be explaining a lot more on these drafts that I did later on this video. In this time-lapse, I'm basically just practicing my reference photo because I wasn't really familiar with human anatomy, faces, and just humans. So this was my first time doing more of a human structured painting. So this was definitely nerve-wracking, but I really wanted to do this because it meant a lot to me.
Show you kind of what my drafts were looking like at this point. So the first draft I did the day before was like this. It was a really rough sketch of how I wanted it to look like, and then after that I was practicing proportions and such, and I decided to trace on the computer to make sure I know what I was doing so I can get the basic shapes going on. This was my first ever draft. It was a completely different reference photo. It was of my grandfather stamping his signature on his calligraphy at the end, but I ended up liking this reference photo a lot more. And then here's me just doing more rough sketching in here as well. And then on this page I was just practicing different parts of the body, so you can see the different faces I practiced. This is the foot, and then this is the hand with the brush, and this is the knee. So I did a lot of drafts before I sketched onto the canvas. So this was kind of what my rough sketches were looking like. I used this sketch to sketch onto my canvas because it was so much bigger and I wanted to make it more simple. So what I did is I went like this with transparent paper, and then I just traced on the basic shapes and like this, and then I just drew on the basic shapes that I saw from the actual drawing that I traced on from the computer, so then I get the exact shapes going. And this helped me a lot with making my proportions a little better writing onto the big canvas.
I ended up doing the sketching onto the canvas off camera because it ended up taking a really long time, but with the sketches that I had and the different practices that I did, it ended up pretty well. I'm pretty happy about how it turned out. And again, these are the two main sketches that I used to transfer my sketch onto my canvas. This was definitely challenging though, and it's not perfect, but I'm pretty proud of it. Moving on, I decided to paint the background with watercolor a bit so it wouldn't be just plain white, because I wanted to make the main focus of this painting just my grandfather and the calligraphy, so I didn't want to put anything else in the background. So I wanted to just keep it very plain, but I didn't want it just white, so I decided to go in with this brown tone because I thought it would match more with the overall painting. I decided to go from most challenging to the easier parts of this painting, which means I started with all the skin tones and especially the face. This was really challenging for me, but I wanted to make my process a little bit easier by starting from the darkest points of the face and then moving on to the highlights. This helped me a lot with the process, and I'm pretty happy about how it turned out. There's definitely some things that I could still work on, but I'm pretty happy about how it turned out. More on why I really wanted to do this painting was because growing up, I've seen my grandfather work so hard and be really passionate about calligraphy. He showed me not to give up and kind of reach for my dreams, and the amount of support he got because he was so sweet and how passionate and loving he was. I really looked up to that since I was a kid, and I thought this reference photo really represented how hardworking he is, and I really wanted to bring that into my painting. Of course, it's not perfect. I'm not a very skilled artist, but I wanted to honor someone who has done so much for me growing up and someone who I've always looked up to. Later that evening, I worked on the hair off camera because I was taking a really long time. I got some clips, but it didn't look that great, so I decided to just start filming with the headband. This headband was more white in the photo, but I thought that would not be very interesting, so I thought might as well make it more of a light gray, and this added more depth and dimension into this painting, and I'm really happy I did that. Moving on to the clothing. So I was really debating if I wanted to start this day because I knew that if I started it would take me forever, but I knew that I wouldn't have much time once spring break was over, so I really wanted to push myself to the limit, and I'm happy that I did do this. I had this odd challenge where I couldn't make the right color for the shirt, so it took me like a fat 30 minutes to try to match the shade, and it ended up still being too dark, but I decided to just go with it because it still looked pretty good. This was basically the finish of my project. I did more off camera the next day. I added some shadows with watercolor, and I'm pretty happy about how it turned out. And if you want to see my final piece at the art show, make sure to follow me on Instagram because I update there quite a lot. So thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you guys next time.